Alrighty, just passed Discrete Math 2 about an hour ago. And I'm just going to go over my immediate thoughts, just having passed the course and, a general overview, lessons learned, study tips, background, time to study, all that good stuff. I'm probably going to make multiple videos of this one just because there's so much to say regarding this course. But again, here's just going to be a general rundown. So for overview, we got 6 units. So the first one covers algorithm complexity. Then we got number theory, cryptography, induction, recursion, counting, um, discrete probability, and then modeling computation. So units 1, 6, and yeah, I would say 1 and 6 are fairly straightforward. No, actually unit 3 too. Yeah, 1, 3, and 6 are fairly straightforward. There's not too much to cover there, but units 2, 4, and 5, those are beasts. Like those are beasts. I think, and this will all make sense once you start the course. I think if you don't know Euclidean algorithm, combinatorics, and you don't know, um, actually I'll say probably those two. Yeah, if you don't know combinatorics and Euclidean algorithm, you're cooked. You're cooked. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So it's so important to know. Oh, fast exponentiation. That's the other one I was thinking of. Fast exponentiation, Euclidean algorithm, and combinatorics. You got to get really, really good at those 3 things because those 3 things are like the foundation of the entire exam. So if you don't know those 3 things, you're done. That's it. But yeah, Unit 1 covers over pseudocode. It also goes like how to read it and determine what the code outputs. It goes over pseudocode and goes over time complexity, so your big O notation, and just you're given a bunch of code and you gotta figure out what the performance of that code is. So that's unit 1 in a nutshell. Unit 2 goes over number theory, so your fast exponentiation and Euclidean algorithm, as well as extended Euclidean algorithm, and it's very important for cryptography and pretty much how to use that to encrypt and decrypt. Unit 3 goes over induction, which is a proof technique. So proofing in math is where you write statements to prove that something is true. So that's induction is a certain type of proof. And then recursion is a variation of a loop. So a loop is a section of code, that repeats however many times, and recursion kind of does the same thing, but in a different way, where the function calls itself repeatedly until it reaches a base case. So that's unit 3. And then it also goes over linear homogeneous recurrence relations. Those are fairly straightforward. Unit 4 goes over your counting. So sum rule, product rule, complement rule, um, pigeonhole principle, inclusion, exclusion, multi-setting. So it's a lot of combinatorics that goes into that for sure. And then unit 5, which is probability, builds on unit 4, which is what I'm saying. If you don't know combinatorics, you're cooked. So unit 5 builds on counting, using those counting principles to then determine a probability. So that goes over, it builds on combinatorics, and then it also goes over things like Bayes theorem and expected value. And then unit 6, modeling computation, that's super easy. That's the easiest unit by far. It's just looking at machines and figuring out what their states are going to be based on the input given. A very easy example is like a lock. The lock, if you have a lock in your hand, it's either locked or it's unlocked. And then depending on an input, it changes the state from locked to unlocked or unlocked to locked. And just given an input, you have to figure out what state the lock is going to be in after a certain amount of time. I know that sounds kind of weird, but Unit 6 is the easiest one. And it's also the smallest too. Out of the 60 question test, I think Unit 6 only had like 5 questions. So it's the easiest, but it's unfortunately the smallest. So anyway, that's the overview. So when it comes to my background, I was I was really having to climb a mountain just because I haven't done math in so long. So ideally, the ideal progression would be you do statistics and probability, and then you do discrete math 1, and then you do discrete math 2. But because I had a more unconventional path, I took statistics and discrete math 1 over a year ago. So I'm just now doing discrete math 2. So I had a lot of ground to make up because discrete math 2 already assumes that you know, a little bit of statistics and probability, and obviously assumes you've already did discrete math 1. So I had a huge mountain to climb for sure on that. But I think it shouldn't take as long to get through discrete math 2 if you have done statistics and discrete math 1 immediately before. It took me about 5 weeks to get through it. So that's my background for that. Study time. Oh man, I was grinding on this. I'd probably say I was probably giving at least 6 hours every day, and often on weekends it'd be more. It'd probably be like the entire weekend. Um, yeah, this was a lot. And the thing about when it comes to math is that the mind can only digest material so fast. Like you can't force yourself necessarily to understand the material. It just gradually happens with repetition. So that's the thing about math is like it's kind of hard to accelerate that process. And I made a video about this, the whole road to competence hurts, where again competence is built gradually and slowly. So yeah, this course took me a while for sure, just because again, nobody else can learn the material for you. Like somebody can explain it to you a million times, but for you to actually learn and understand it, it does take a while. But yeah, study time. In summary, I was grinding. I was putting in work for this, and even then, it still took me just over a month. It took me about, I think it's like 4 months, like a full month plus like 3 or 4 days. Lessons learned. Oh man, there's so many. Again, I'm probably gonna make a separate video on this regarding study tactics and different strategies that I use. But to keep this a little bit shorter, I would say the first things first is don't binge watch YouTube. That's the mistake I made for the first week of my study pipeline, is that I just studied by using YouTube, just binge watching a bunch of tutorials. And I'll still link it in the description, a lot of the videos that I used, as well as the playlist. It's called Pursuit of Happiness, and there's a playlist for each unit. So it's not useless, but you definitely shouldn't use it as your main resource. It's hard. You can't learn through just watching someone else do it. That's just not the way. You have to execute. You have to get the reps in. So don't binge watch YouTube videos. Absolutely not. I wasted a whole week by doing that inefficient process. It has to be a supplement. So it's like if you don't understand something from the textbook, which by the way, the textbook is dry as fuck. But if you don't understand something from the textbook, then it would be good to use the YouTube video as a supplement. But don't use it as your main resource because you're not gonna learn anything, or you're gonna learn very little. So don't binge watch YouTube. Next thing I would say is use the instructors. I would recommend having at least one appointment a day, at least one every day, where you ask the instructor to go over questions that you didn't understand from the textbook, because the textbook, obviously each lesson and chapter comes with a set of questions, and just mark down questions that you don't understand and have the instructor walk it through with you. So use the instructors for sure. That was a mistake I made for the first 2 weeks or so. I just didn't use leverage the instructors enough. I kind of just um, I thought I would just figure it out all on my own, which you can, but it's just far slower. It's far slower to figure things out yourself, and it's just leverage someone's expertise to do it, to help you along with that. So use the instructors. I would recommend again having one 45-minute appointment every day with an instructor, and using that along with live instructor support, which is I think it's a 5 hour window every day. Well, every weekday at least. Every weekday where you can hop on and talk to an instructor with no appointment needed. So we'll have one scheduled appointment a day, and then use live instructor support. So yeah, two interactions with instructors a day. When it comes to instructors too, it's trial and error for sure, because there's like, I think there's about 10 instructors you can choose from, and you're gonna have to try different ones for sure. At least I recommend at least trying out five, and then out of those five, picking one that worked the best for you, and then just rocking with that one guy slash gal. For me, I found that, and I'll put these names in the description. I found that Nick Meyers was the best for me. But again, you gotta try out different instructors and see which one you like the best. And I think that's all for. Oh, so another thing too that you have to go through WGU Connect, and they'll have supplemental worksheets for each unit. You got to do all those. So do all the supplemental worksheets, do all the chapter review forms at the end of each chapter. In the textbook. Do all the reps. Do all the reps. Any opportunity you have for more questions, do them. It's so important to get those reps in for sure. And then the final thing I would say is you got to use AI. Leverage the fuck out of it. AI was so important for my learning process. What I would do is I would do the practice problems in the textbook, and then I would take a screenshot of that and just have AI generate even more problems for me. But that can be kind of hit or miss too because AI fucks up a lot. But I would say like 80% of the time AI was helpful, and 20% it wouldn't fuck up, which is still good in my opinion. So I would highly recommend using AI to ask it a lot of follow-up questions as well as to help you generate more problems to get additional reps in. So overall difficulty, fuck man, this I would say probably 10 out of 10. This class made me want to cry a couple times. It was just so frustrating, but that's math in a nutshell. Math is frustrating for sure. And I like doing math when I understand what I'm doing and I'm in the zone, just knocking them out. But when you don't and you're on that roadblock, it can be very frustrating. So yeah, in the entire program, I would say rank this as the number 2 hardest class. The only one that's harder, and it's a close second. The only one that's harder would be the Oracle Professional Java certification that I did. But even that's not a WGU course. That's something I did to transfer in credits. So in terms of strictly WGU courses, oh, absolutely, this one's the hardest one. Discrete math is by far away the hardest one for sure. So yeah, this one was hard. I did not have a good experience with it, but the great thing about math is that it really does train your mind for sure to become sharper and to really break problems down. So that pain that you experience in problem solving is really good. It pays dividends, strengthens your problem solving abilities, your patience, and your overall ability to think. So math is really good in that sense. So yeah, 10 out of 10. Again, I'm going to make more videos on this specifically on study tips, and I'm also going to make videos on what you need to know for each unit. So I'm going to make tutorials on each unit. Again, I'm not an expert, but I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to know to pass the exam. I'm not going to go too in depth about the actual principles because obviously I'm not a professor or nothing, but I'm just going to tell you what you need to know to pass the exam. So that'll be coming soon. But yeah, longer video, but there was just so much to talk about for this one. So I had to get it all off my chest while it's still fresh in my mind before I forget. But yeah, that's all I got for this one. Talk soon.